Let me start off with the housekeeping details. Please turn your video off. Please mute yourself. I will turn my video off in a minute as soon as I am done talking. My name is Steve Cohen. I am the district coordinator for Allegheny North and Allegheny East. And back in November, when we had a presentation by Don on what the state changes are, I was incredibly impressed. I truly was. I think the department has made significant and wonderful strides in terms of offering an ability for taxpayers and us to be able to communicate with the department. And though he in his presentation, and we shared that presentation when we did our training in our district, though we shared the slide presentation, I just thought that the ability for us to understand how to use the online portal that the department has created would be very, very beneficial. Not for us to actually log on and do things on behalf of our clients. We don't do that. But what the portal offers is a way for us to explain to our clients what they need to do in order to communicate with the department. And so I asked Pat to set this training session up. And let me introduce, let me turn it over to Pat to introduce our speakers for the next hour or so.
Okay, my name is Pat Hallman. I am the training specialist for Western Pennsylvania, and I'm helping organize this today. And we have with us Alicia Gauntz and Don Bianchi and Sarah, but Sarah, I never met you before, so I don't know what your last name is. And I think there's a fourth person here, and I'm just going to turn it over to Alicia and have her introduce any of the rest of you. Before I do that, though, I would like everyone to have their cameras off, please, so that we can increase bandwidth as much as possible. And that if you have something to ask, you can write it on the chat bar on the right-hand side, or you can raise your hand and we will recognize you. Okay, Alicia, you may take it away.
Thanks so much, Pat. So my name is Alicia Gauntz. I am the chief of our Customer Outreach Relations and Engagement Division here at the Customer Experience Center within the Department of Revenue. I am joined today by Don Bianchi, Sarah Swieger, and Karen Clark. So they're all here to help out in the chat with any questions you guys may have. Feel free to type them in there. They all have a lot of very good and useful knowledge of the myPATH system. So that's what we're going to be covering. Pat, did you want me to turn my camera off too? Or
no, whoever's the speaker can leave their camera on. That's kind of our unwritten rule. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let me share my screen with you guys real quick. All right, so you're all seeing the slideshow at this point?
We are.
Okay, great, thank you. So again, I work in the Customer Outreach Relations and Engagement Division here at the Customer Experience Center. My area is primarily responsible for the outreach and education efforts provided by the department, as well as building or maintaining relationships with our external stakeholders. With that being said, we would like to thank every one of you at AARP for the work that you do to assist the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. Tax laws are always changing, and processes and procedures. So you guys all do an amazing job at staying abreast on all of those changes and helping out. In the end, it makes our lives easier at the department. So we are very appreciative of everything that you do. As I mentioned, it looks like we're here today to talk about myPATH. Steve basically said it's not something that you'll use in your daily jobs, but we want to make sure that you understand what functionality is available for your customers to take advantage of. And I tend to talk with my hands a lot, so I'll apologize in advance if you guys see them kind of moving around down here. Today we're going to cover an overview of our modernization project. We're going to talk about how to file both the PA 1000 and the PA 40 via myPATH. This will include attaching proof documents and filing an amended return, or when you can file an amended return. We're going to go over checking the status of your return or rebate, and then reviewing other non-logged in features that might be helpful to your customers. In addition, we'll touch on some of the logged in features or functionality that is available if your customers actually create a user profile. And then we'll wrap up the presentation by going over some resources or places to find answers to your myPATH related questions. All right, so let's do a quick overview of the department's modernization project so that everything that I say today makes sense while I'm talking through the presentation. As many of you know, the department does have a modernization project. There are two components to our tax system modernization. So the first part is what we call PATH, which stands for Pennsylvania Tax Hub. This is the internal system used by our employees. So this is our actual tax system. And then we have myPATH, which is the portal used by our external customers. So this is available to any customers with obligations for any of the taxes or programs involved in the first 4 rollouts. So our modernization has been broken down into several rollouts. We've successfully completed 4 of those rollouts so far. So myPATH does replace the old e-services, and it will eventually replace eTides and the PA 100 enterprise registration form after we've completed rollout 5. The tax system modernization, like I said, is scheduled to be broken into 5 rollouts. We will have an additional rollout after that for some deferred functions and improvements, but the first 4 rollouts were implemented on time and on budget. Rollout 1 went live in January of 2019 with the implementation of motor and alternative fuel taxes and the International Fuel Tax Agreement, or IFTA tax. Rollout 2 went live in October of 2019 with the implementation of realty transfer tax, inheritance tax, medical marijuana tax, and a case management solution for our voluntary disclosure program. Rollout 3 went live in November of 2020 with the implementation of personal income tax and related pass-through entity processing, in addition to the property tax rent rebate program. And then rollout 4 just went live on August 30th of 2021, and that included the implementation of 6 tax programs, which are currently supported by standalone systems, and that is the cigarette non-participating manufacturer, cigarette stamping tax, including the fire safe certification, tavern gains, pari-mutuel wagering tax, and then 2 specialty corp taxes, which are the agricultural cooperative tax and the electric cooperative tax. Rollout 5 will include the replacement of our business tax system, including the implementation of corporation tax, employer withholding tax, and then sales tax, among others. Rollout 5 is expected to go live in November of 2022, probably right around Thanksgiving weekend. I don't believe your group really handles business taxes, so we've tailored most of the presentation to just address personal income tax and property tax rent rebate. All right, so there are a few different ways that you can get to myPATH. The easiest way is to simply type in mypath.pa.gov, and it'll bring you right to the home page. You can also go to the department's website, which is revenue.pa.gov, and then click on the myPATH icon that's in the gray icon belt down the center of the screen. And again, that'll bring you right to the myPATH homepage. Once you've either typed in the URL or you've clicked on the icon, you've come to the home page, you're going to get to a screen that looks like this image here. There are a few things I want to point out. So first of all, you can see that there are several different tiles that are broken down into categories. Within those tiles, there are hyperlinks to perform different functions. Anything that you see on this homepage, you do not have to create an account to utilize those features. So later on, we're going to touch on user profiles, but a lot of people get concerned about their client's ability to create a profile. Most of the things that we're going to talk about today, you do not have to have a profile for at all. So just keep that in mind when you're advising your customers. The next thing I want to point out is that customers tend to see this black login box in the top right-hand corner, and then they stop there. I can understand why, especially if they're using a cell phone or an iPad. It is the first thing that they truly see on the screen. But we just want to advise them to keep scrolling until they see the other tiles. So that might sound silly, but it is a common mistake. Make sure that they're going past the login box to get to the non-logged in features. So you might wonder how we know what account you or your customer are working with if you're not actually logging into anything. We're going to quickly talk about our new notices. So all letters and notices from the Department of Revenue have been rewritten upon conversion into the new system. This is to make the notices easier to understand and incorporate a few additional changes needed for the new system. If you're familiar with IRS notices, they do look a bit like this. So one of the biggest changes is that our notices now contain a letter ID, which replaces the DLN or the document locator number from our previous notices. The letter ID can be found in the top right-hand corner of the notice, and it is necessary to complete most of your transactions in myPATH. So this letter ID is going to tie your transaction back to the appropriate customer's account. All right, now that you know a little bit about the homepage and the letter ID, let's talk about how to file. We know that many of you use TaxSlayer to prepare returns for your customers. Then I believe you print the PA 1000 and ask them to mail it into the department. If your customer has access to a computer, we strongly encourage that they take the copy you printed and just submit the information via myPATH. This will ensure it gets into our system faster, they can track the status at any time, and then since it is in the system faster, they should get their rebates faster as a result. So again, if you do print out that PA 1000, rather than asking them to mail it into us, just ask them to go to the portal. To begin, you'll navigate from the home page to the tile that says rebates. Again, you don't need a username and password since it's a non-logged in function. They're going to select the option to apply for a property tax rent rebate. myPATH can only be used to file claims for the current period. So you'll see here that it says apply for a property tax rent rebate for 2021. That's going to change every year, so that way they're only filing for that current period. If claimants choose to use this option, they'll need to upload attachments right along with their application, such as proof of age and/or disability. So this screen here is the first thing that you'll see once you select the apply for a property tax rent rebate link. You'll see that it outlines what is possibly needed before you even get started. And then there is a disclaimer stating if your attachments are not able to be electronically uploaded with your application, you will need to file a paper application. So we do accept many different file types. I personally recommend using PDF attachments. Oftentimes people ask how to get the documents to their desktop. I would suggest taking a picture with your cell phone and sending an email to yourself. Then you could create a folder on your desktop or simply label a file in a way that it's easy to recognize when you're looking for it. Once you've selected the next on the introduction page, you'll be taken to a series of questions. This software is very intuitive. Based on how you answer the questions, that will determine what schedules are populated to be completed. In this example, we're going to file a claim as a property owner who is 65 years of age. First time filer, yes. Filed by a preparer, yes. Filed by the claimant's power of attorney, no. More than one home, no. Used for other purposes, no. Filing on behalf of the decedent, no. An additional name on deed or lease, no. So basically, by answering that first series of questions, we've just completed section 2 of the PA 1000, which is the filing status categories. From there, it'll start to ask questions about income. This is where if you hand your customer the paper application, they can plug the numbers into it from section 3. So in this example, you can see we just entered $4,788 in Social Security income. Once you get through the other income section, you can see that it calculates the total income for you. So in our example, the total income is automatically calculated to $2,394 because it split that Social Security income in half. So the system knew to do that for you. Once the amount of tax is entered, the rebate is automatically calculated and populated. If you take a look at this navigational bar on the top of the application, this is present throughout the entire application process. So you can use this bar to navigate to other sections of the application or simply use the previous and next buttons to get where you need to be. Once you've passed the rebate section, you'll enter the personal information for the claimant. So again, this is basically section 1 of the physical PA 1000. Please take note of this verify address button. This must be selected for each transaction with which it's present. Sorry, I thought I had a red arrow on this slide, but I don't. So if you see the blue bar that says verify address, you just want to make sure that you click it. This is just confirming that the address is in compliance with the U.S. Postal Service standards, or it's recognized as a valid address in their system. And then lastly, you'll select whether the rebate should be direct deposited or not. All right, so this screen here just shows that address validation that I just mentioned. You can see that in our example, we entered the address as 393 Walnut Street in Harrisburg, or I'm sorry, yeah, 393 Walnut Street in Harrisburg. The validation is requesting that we put those last couple digits of the zip code onto it, so 393 Walnut Street, Harrisburg, 17128-2005. You'll just select the correct address and then click Save. If you choose direct deposit for the rebate, which I strongly recommend, you'll be taken to a screen like this. At this point, you'll just select whether you're using a checking or a savings account, enter your account number, enter the routing number. If the routing number is properly inputted into the system, the bank name should populate, and then you'll be asked to confirm your account number. So the next step is uploading your attachments. Again, we were warned in the beginning this was required as part of the electronic application. So based on how your customer answered the question, myPATH will tell you what documents are required. So if you see that little red exclamation point over there, it tells you that they need proof of age, disability, income, and taxes paid. So then you'll click the Add button and select the files from your computer to be uploaded. The system will ask you to select what type of attachment you're about to upload from the list of required documents. So you'll choose the appropriate proof document and enter the description of that document. And then you'll simply select Choose File and navigate to the file on your desktop. And then you'll want to click OK to move on to the next item. Once that's successfully uploaded, you'll be able to confirm and move to the next proof document. So you can see on the screen that there is an option to remove if you accidentally selected the wrong file or if you labeled it incorrectly. You can always remove and reattach that document. Again, just another way to ensure that you're doing everything correctly. You'll want to make sure that you repeat those steps for each additional file that you need to upload. So each one of those proof documents, you're going to add every time and select that file. And then once you've uploaded everything that you need, you'll click Next to continue through the application. Before the application can be finalized, you'll need to complete the claimant oath by entering the preparer's name and phone number. And then you'll click Next to move on to the application summary. So make sure that you review the rebate summary before submitting the application. Here you can see the claimant name, their email, their expected rebate amount, so just make sure all of that looks good. And then once you click Submit, you'll receive a confirmation that requires you to acknowledge the information you submitted is true, complete, and accurate to the best of your ability. After the confirmation is completed, you'll receive a confirmation screen that includes your submission information. You or your customer will want to hang on to this information so that you can check your rebate status in the future. The confirmation itself will also be emailed to the email address that was just entered. But keep in mind, if you are using the same email address to submit more than one claim, it doesn't give you any identifying information as far as what customer it belongs to. So you might want to print it out and write the customer name or the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, if you're filing for several claimants. All right, so before I move on to filing the PA-40, are there any questions out there about filing the PA-1000?
A lot of questions came in, but
So
Dawn and
I have
Sarah
a
have
few
one.
questions. Karen and I have answered some of them. The latest one that came in was, what does someone have to prove disability? So that's not really a myPATH question. We'll post a listing of the disability proof style of the PA-1000 booklet into the chat for you, Stephanie, but that information is available in the PA-1000 booklet. Social Security statement will do, Military and Veterans Affairs statement will do, or a physician statement can do in an off chance. We'll get that information out to you.
Along the same lines, what constitutes proof of age? Alicia, you're muted. Alicia, you muted yourself.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was just asking Dawn if he wanted to take that question. I didn't know if he had the proof documents in front of him.
What are examples of some of the age ones? I mean, income is obvious,
Okay.
but age is not.
So I will apologize. As I'm sitting in the room with Alicia, I turned the volume down on the headset because I can hear her talking right here, so I can hear your question. So that is completely my technical mistake.
That's okay. My question is, what constitutes a proof of age?
So that is also listed on in the PA-1000. Some of the examples are your driver's license, a passport that legally show the age, a birth certificate, obviously. Your Medicare card, I think it's it used to be called a PA Blue card that you get issued when you're 65 is an acceptable form. But everything, there is a synopsis list of the most common documents in the PA-1000, and we can make sure we get that sent off to you also.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat bar.
Fair enough. Thanks so much for handling those, Dawn. All right, so let's move on to filing the PA-40. You can file a PA-40 through myPATH, again, without creating a user profile. Again, we realize that your group will probably file using TaxSlayer, but we're going to run through this just in case you do make the decision to use the portal for filing amended returns. From what I understand, you can file an amended return regardless of whether the original was filed via myPATH or not.
Alicia, I apologize for interrupting, but before, I just thought of one more question on the 1000. It probably will apply to the PA-42. Okay, is there a way of saving? Let's say you get halfway through and you don't have documents, or yada yada. How do you save a return? How do you access it in order to get back into it?
So I actually do have that as part of the presentation. For the PA40, you will be able to stop, save your submission ID, and go back and finish that out. For the PA1000, unfortunately, you cannot stop in the middle of that and go back. So you have to complete the entire PA1000 in one sitting. So.
Do the instructions say that on the screen? I didn't see anything along those lines.
So Karen Clark, you're on the call, right? I don't remember seeing anything in on the screen.
Yeah, I believe it does tell you to have your documentation ready to be uploaded as its sort of disclaimer. But we could definitely look at making sure that that is specified in the opening instruction.
Yeah, so thank you, Karen. I do know that it tells you to make sure that you have your documents. They will be required. But like Karen said, I don't know that there's actual language that says you cannot stop in the middle of this and come back to complete it later. So we can definitely take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so as I was stating, from what I understand, you can file an amended return regardless of whether the original was filed in myPATH or not. It does not automatically populate the taxpayer's information, so it's basically like filling out a regular return and providing the identifying information to the department. myPATH will not stop you if you're trying to file an amended return when the original was filed, say, paper. All right, so as I just said, the PA40 is considered a non-logged in function, so there is no need to create a username or password. The PA40 is available for the current year and the previous tax year. So in the screenshot, you can see that the portal currently has an option to file a PA personal income tax return for 2021, or at the bottom, there's file a PA personal income tax return for 2020. New to 2021 is the option to file in Spanish. So for those of you with Spanish-speaking customers, feel free to refer them to the portal for assistance. Unfortunately, the portal is not available to first-time filers unless they have a valid Pennsylvania driver's license or photo identification information. PennDOT does share information with the Department of Revenue so that we can validate users that are Pennsylvania residents, even if they don't have a previous year's return on file. If the taxpayer's information does not exist in PATH or with PennDOT, they would need to file a paper return for their first year. So that means non-residents who have never filed before will not qualify to file via myPATH for their first time. All right, so the PA40 itself also has a list of what is needed before you begin, similar to the PA1000. If this is a more complex taxpayer, you may not be able to use myPATH, so make sure that you read the myPATH can handle returns with section. And then upload any proof documents that you're going to need to verify income or dependents. And then when you're ready to get started, you'll just click Next. This will bring you to the identity verification page. First, you'll need to enter the Social Security number or ITIN and the last name of the taxpayer. And then you'll answer the question, are you amending your return? So this is where you indicate if you're filing amended return. Make sure that you answer this question accordingly if this is the method that you are using for amending. And then after that, you'll need to answer whether you filed a previous return. If you select yes, you'll need to indicate what year you filed and then report the line 12 information for that particular year. If you have never filed before, but you do have a Pennsylvania driver's license or identification card, you would select no to that question, and then you'll be asked for your date of birth, your driver's license number, and your expiration date. This option here can also be used if you don't have your line 12 information from a previous year. So if your customer doesn't keep their returns like they should, they simply select no and enter their PennDOT information. And once you've been validated, you'll move on to the Getting Started screen. Here's where you'll indicate your residency and whether or not you're filing on behalf of a decedent, along with whether or not this is a final return. So if you are filing on behalf of a decedent, you'll need to enter the date of death. And if this is your final return, you'll need to indicate why in the box provided. And then you'll click Next to proceed. At this point, you'll need to enter the contact information. And you can see again, it's a verify address block. You'll need to click that blue block before you can move on. Anytime that you see that verify address, you need to actually verify. And then once the address has been verified, the screen will look like this. So if you see the green screen, or I'm sorry, the green bar at the bottom, it says address verified. After you've successfully completed all of that, you'll come to this screen, which requires you to select your sources of income. Next, you'll answer a few more questions about business expenses, credits, dependents, use tax, etc. Depending on how you answer each of these questions, you may be required to answer additional questions. For example, this screen is requiring me to enter penalty and interest amounts and credit amounts based on how I answered the questions. And then once you've entered all of your income or credits, the system will calculate any payment due and then give you the option of making an ACH payment. So if there's not a balance due, you'll go right to the attachments screen. And if the system determines that there is a balance due and you select the no to making an ACH payment, you'll receive a screen with information for other payment methods. So if you'd like to pay with a debit card or a credit card, it informs you to go to the home page and select make a payment. Or if you want to mail in a check or a money order, there is an address listed telling you to send it in along with the PA40B. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see if you choose yes to making the ACH credit payment, the system will prompt you to enter your banking information. And then this slide here just shows us what it looks like if the taxpayer was due a refund. So if they didn't have anything due, but they were due a refund, it simply says you're eligible for a refund. And then it'll ask them if they want to donate any of their refund or use it as a carry forward credit. New to 2021, once you've surpassed the payment or refund screen, you'll be taken to the REV 1882 Health Insurance Coverage Information Request. Here's where you answer the questions regarding insurance coverage. So the intention is to connect uninsured Pennsylvanians with information regarding their eligibility to enroll in health insurance through the Pennsylvania Health Insurance Exchange Authority, otherwise known as PENI. So these questions are purely to provide that assistance. And then once you've completed the PENI information, you'll be taken to the attachments screen. Again, depending on how you answered the question throughout your filing, the system will tell you whether or not you're required to upload any attachments. So you can see here the one scenario says you are required to upload documentation to be submitted with your return. And then the other scenario says you are not required to upload supporting documentation at this time, but you absolutely may if you feel the need. Finally, you will stumble upon the summary screen. So be sure to double check all of your figures here and then click submit. Once you've fully submitted, you'll get to this confirmation screen. Again, hang on to the confirmation code in case you ever want to check the status of your submission. And that brings us right to checking the status. So in myPATH, technically, there are two different ways of checking your status. You can check the status of your submission or simply use the where's my rebate or where's my refund options. For the sake of simplicity, I would recommend that you direct your customers to the where's my refund or where's my rebate. This feature can be used regardless of whether a return or a refund was actually submitted via myPATH. Once the return or the claim was loaded or is loaded into the tax system, you can go directly to the homepage and check the status. So for refunds, you'll need to visit the refunds tile on that homepage, and then select the Where's My Refund. You can also still use the Where's My Refund icon on the department's website. Essentially, it'll just link you right over to myPATH. You will need the tax year in question, the refund amount, and the social security number to check on that. And then the same for rebates. Just visit the rebates tile and select Where's My Rebate. You'll need the claim year, the claimant's date of birth, and the social security number. There are additional non-logged in features available to your customers as well. So the very last tile on the homepage is the submissions tile. Submissions are any payments, returns, or correspondence that are sent in via myPATH. You can check the status of a submission if you have the confirmation code and the email address that was entered when you completed the transaction. I mentioned that there's two ways to check on your refunds or rebates. You can use the confirmation code that you received to check the status of your submission, but this is mostly used in those situations where you've started the PA40 and then you want to go back later and finish it. As we stated earlier, unfortunately, you don't have the option to do that for the PA1000. You must complete the entire PA1000 application all in one sitting. And then in addition, the submissions tile has an option to respond to your letter. This option allows you to submit correspondence directly to the department in response to a notice or a request for information. This here is something that I really do think would be beneficial to your group. It allows you to upload documents directly to the taxpayer's account using the letter ID from their notice. This gets into our work queue faster, and it ensures that it's not lost in the mail. So just like the other features, you can also upload multiple attachments at a time if need be. Again, using the respond to a letter feature in myPATH is definitely the preferred way to interact with the department going forward. All right, so next is the payment style. As long as the taxpayer does have their letter ID, they can make a payment towards a bill for a fiduciary tax, non-resident consolidated, non-resident inheritance tax, pass-through entity, personal income tax, property tax, rent rebate, and realty transfer tax. Once you click on the make a payment, there are more options. The first one is pay my bill. This option does just that. It applies a payment directly towards an outstanding liability. So if taxpayers need to get their letter ID, they may contact the department to have a letter generated in order to use this feature. You can also make return payments, which includes estimated and extension payments, as well as voucher payments if the amount due was not paid at the time of filing. This second option here does not require that you have the letter ID, but rather the social security number or taxpayer ID number and the supporting taxpayer demographics to submit a payment. So this is another alternative that can be used to pay towards outstanding liabilities if a letter ID from a bill is not available. You can also see on the slide that there's an option to make a wage garnishment or bank attachment payments. These both require the garnishment ID as well as the letter ID. And then finally, pay off a lien, which requires the docket number and the letter ID. Additionally, you can track payments and credits. This is commonly used for estimated or extension payments. And then we also have a penalty and interest calculator, which is available for all of the taxes that are currently integrated into the new system, as well as many that are yet to come. And then the next tile that I want to talk about is the identity verification tile. So some taxpayers receive notices requesting that they verify their refund by entering a verification code from their notice and confirming whether or not they actually filed a return. Once completed, the department will continue processing their return or contact them if identity theft is reported. We also issue identity validation quizzes or verification quizzes in certain circumstances. So if a taxpayer receives a letter requesting that they complete the ID verification quiz, that can be done right from the homepage. So they'll need a copy of their PA-40 for the tax year in question, the PA-40 for the tax year. I'm getting a little distracted by the chat pop-ups that are coming through. They need a copy of their PA-40 for the tax year in question, as well as the letter ID from their letter. So again, they can verify their identity right from the homepage, go to that ID verification tile, and then select whether they're entering the code or they're completing their quiz. And then finally, back to the individuals tile, we do have the option for taxpayers to download their forms W2G for any gambling winnings, as well as verify their 1099G or 1099 INT amounts. All right, so before I move on to creating a myPATH profile, are there any questions or anything that you guys think we need to address aloud right now?
There's a whole mess of questions in the chat bar, but Don has been answering most of those. But let me ask a question first. A taxpayer submits a PA 1000. A month after submitting it, let's say it's March, in April they discover they made a mistake. Okay, can they use the myPATH to correct the mistake, and how would they go about doing that?
Okay, so unfortunately you cannot amend a PA 1000 via myPATH. So
they would just have to call the department?
So legally, there is no such thing as an amended PA 1000. A second PA 1000 is submitted into the department, and then the department will look at both the first submission and the second submission and make a processing determination. So I may have to defer this to Karen, but I do believe you can submit a second PA 1000 through myPATH, but you'd have to put all the information in to make it a complete and whole submission. You can't just put in what you omitted.
Okay.
It's the same as what you had to do with the paper return, I believe.
Okay. Let's go back through the questions. There's a lot of them. Will the PA 1000 carry data forward for future years?
Karen, I believe the answer to that one is no, right? They're gonna.
That's correct. The myPATH does not capture or retain any information on any submissions that are made from the homepage while you're not logged in.
Okay. Somebody has their hand raised, PV 822. Do you have a question? Unmute yourself.
No, I'm sorry. That was an accident. Thank you.
Okay. Easy. With these things, it's easy to do. Is there a place to print the report?
Yeah, at the end, when you've submitted the return or the claim, you will see a button that says printable version. You can click that button, it'll open a new tab, most likely, and then you will get a sort of summary of the line items that were submitted on that return or that application. It's not in the official format of the actual forms, like the PA-40 or the PA-1000, but it is the line items as they were entered and does provide the submission information.
Okay. Just most of the other questions look like they've been answered. Yes, there's a charge for using a credit card. Is there anywhere on the PA-40 where a preparer needs to indicate that the return is being done by? I'm not clear on the question. Is there anywhere on the PA-40 where a preparer needs to indicate that the return is being done by a preparer as opposed to the individual submitting the return. Is there a preparer field, I guess, on the PA 40?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Same as what it is on the bottom of the PA 1000. You would sign as the preparer.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Anyone else? If not, just housekeeping. Trudy, would you please turn your camera off? And Alicia, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much.
We do have another raised hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if that was.
Okay, that's me. My name is Stephanie. I'm still confused about this letter ID. So everything that does each person have their own letter ID, or does each document have a letter ID? How would you describe that again, please?
So
I don't get the letter ID concept.
Right, so every notice that comes from the Department of Revenue that's generated out of the new tax system now contains a letter ID. So that letter ID in the top right-hand corner ties that notice back to the taxpayer's account. So if it's a collection notice, we'll know exactly why that notice went out. It ties it back to the customer account. Previously, we had what was called a DLN, or a document and locator number. So the DLN no longer exists, that letter ID replaces it. When you're using myPATH, again, if you use that letter ID, it ties it right back to that customer's account. So if you have a billing notice for John Doe and you put it into myPATH, we're going to know that you're paying that bill for John Doe and place that payment on his account. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it makes more sense now. Thank you. And another question I have is, if we're doing the person's federal return on TaxSlayer, can we continue just doing the Pennsylvania return on TaxSlayer too, or do we have to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Yeah, yes, we would do the Pennsylvania return on TaxSlayer. This situation, we would refer a client over to myPATH if they wanted to do it themselves, and and didn't want us to do it. So that's why this information is good.
Okay.
Right, and then I did see, I think Pat put another question in the chat that said, when would a myPATH account be necessary? And I'm about to cover that right now. So if you bear with me just a second, we'll go over some logged in features. All right, so your customers should be creating what we call a master administrator profile. So myPATH has different profile types. To keep it simple, we're only going to talk about the master administrator right now. So a master administrator is someone who does not identify themselves as a tax professional. This should be the taxpayer themselves, the person to which the Social Security number or the ITIN is assigned. myPATH does currently have a unique email address requirement. So users will not be able to proceed if they enter an email address that's already in use by another myPATH profile. When a taxpayer attempts to sign in or sign up for a myPATH profile, they are required to provide their Social Security number and their last name. So the Social Security number and the name must match the information that's in our tax system in order for them to proceed. So this means if they're not in our tax system, they will not be able to sign up for a myPATH profile, and they should contact us directly for assistance. Passwords have the typical requirements, so that's an 8-character minimum, upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. Also, the password cannot be similar to the username. So we did have one taxpayer who was having trouble with creating their password, and then we realized it was because he was entering something extremely close to his username. So just keep that in mind. There are additional profile types, like I mentioned, and then more details as far as setting up your profile that we could go over, but I'm assuming your group is not really going to be setting up profiles, so I did leave that out of the presentation today. If in the future that changes or you guys want more information, please reach out to us and we'll get you more details on creating profiles. Once a profile is created, there are what we call logged in features available. Logged in users can search their return and application history going back to 2019. They'll be able to identify any returns or applications that are filed, not filed, pending, and required. They can also amend their PA 40 if the option is available. As I mentioned earlier, you cannot amend a PA 1000 in myPATH, just so we're clear. Similar to the return and application history, users can search their payments and balances. They can also make a payment towards a balance. If they choose to pay the amount that they received on a billing notice or a lien notice, they can do that as a logged in user, but they're still going to need their letter ID and docket number for the lien. So that feature is very similar to the non-logged in features, except as a logged in user, you can actually save your bank account information. So you don't have to enter it every time. If you're a user who plans to make more than one payment on their account, go in, set up your bank account information, make a payment, you can log in later and just submit your payment. Whereas if you make a payment non-logged in, obviously you have to enter your bank account information every time. Any users with balances in a billing or a collection status will be able to set up a payment plan without needing to call the department or submit additional financial information. So that's new to myPATH. If there are no qualifying balances, they will not be able to set up a payment plan. Down payments are now optional. So previously we required a down payment with all payment arrangements. That is now optional. Once the payment plan is submitted, payments will automatically be deducted from the designated taxpayer's bank account according to the terms of the payment plan. I mentioned qualifying balances. So those who do not qualify for a payment plan will not see this screen after selecting request a payment plan. Instead, they'll be given a prompt that explains the reasons why they don't qualify for a payment plan. If the balances are in a billing status, they must be paid within 6 monthly payments. And if the balances are in a collection status, they must be paid within 12 monthly payments. The taxpayer may contact us if they'd like to set up a payment plan that is beyond these terms, or if they wish to make changes to the payment plan that they set up in myPATH. So there is language once they set up that payment plan saying it is a binding agreement and that they agreed to fulfill the terms of their arrangement. If they need to make any changes to that, they definitely will need to contact the department, and we'll give you that information before we're done with our presentation today. All right, so additionally, those who log in can see letters that they've received from the department. They can also send messages directly to the department. So we strongly encourage you to use this feature. Again, the message will be posted directly to the taxpayer's account. If they opt in to receive email notifications, they'll receive an email when there is any new activity on the account, such as a letter or a message. They can also opt in to receive electronic correspondence from the department. So instead of having their letters sent to them in the mail, they can get it electronically. In case you're wondering, there are some letters that will still be mailed, such as assessment notices. And then users that register for a myPATH profile have the option to create secondary profiles or logons to manage their accounts that they have access to on their behalf. So they can also request access to other users' profiles. So as a myPATH user, I can request access to another myPATH user to help them, manage their accounts if they so wish. Also, you can view the power of attorney that's on file with the department, and you can also update your name or address if necessary. So all functionality that's only available as a logged-in user. I did just see a question that popped up and said, is there a myPATH Android app? Unfortunately, myPATH is not an app. You actually have to go to the URL to utilize myPATH.
Okay, there's also a question that's been answered, but for everyone, estimated pay, would a taxpayer be able to make estimated payments online? And the answer seems to be that's a non-logged in function, so that would be done through the payments dialog box. Is that correct?
That's correct. So actually, you can make estimated payments logged in or non-logged in. Easiest way to do it is non-logged in. Again, the only difference is if you're a logged in user making an estimated payment, you can just save your bank account information to use every time.
Okay.
All right, any more questions out there? All right, we'll keep moving. So I know that we covered a lot of information today. I'm going to go over some helpful resources really quick. If you have a question that is directly related to myPATH, we do have what we call the myPATH chatbot, who we named Pathfinder. Again, Pathfinder is trained to answer questions about the portal, but it's not trained to answer taxability related questions. The chatbot can be found in the top right-hand corner of your screen in myPATH, and it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But if you are asking a question that's related to taxability, it may direct you back to the online customer service center. That's the way it's supposed to function. But just know that you can get those answers from the online customer service center. We've also added myPATH frequently asked questions to our online customer service center. So if you are on the Department of Revenue's page and you click the customer service icon, you can view all of the FAQs that we have out there. You also have the option to submit a question to the department from the online customer service center. In addition, you can just email us directly with your myPATH questions. So we have an account set up that's mypath@pa.gov, or you can call 717-425-2495 with the extension of Path 1 to speak to a representative that is trained in myPATH. If you are reaching out to the department for help, or your customers are reaching out to the department for help, it is extremely beneficial to obtain the support ID from myPATH. So this can be found in the top right-hand corner of your myPATH screen, right beside the myPATH chatbot, actually. So you have the chatbot, and then you have the dark blue circle with the question mark in it. From there, you'll click the View Support ID, and then a box will pop up asking if you're sure you want to grant permission to the representative to view your session. Simply click yes, and then you'll receive a code. Once permission is granted, the department representative will be able to remotely view your session in myPATH so they can see where you're having difficulties. So again, if your customer says, I'm trying to do this in myPATH, it's just simply not working for me, have them contact the department, give us that support ID, and we can kind of follow their steps and see where their pain points are. Furthermore, I'll make sure that I send a few handouts that we created to Pat so that she can distribute them out to everyone. There is some good information in these handouts. The myPATH user guide specifically is a great place to point customers for myPATH assistance. We've tried to include step-by-step instructions as well as screenshots to make it easier for them. You can also get to the myPATH user guide through one of our FAQs, so I can make sure that I send that information over so that way you guys have that electronically as well. In addition, we do have a myPATH information page. So the URL for this is revenue.pa.gov/myPATH information. This page is updated regularly to keep you in the loop with all things myPATH. If you are someone who wants more information about Rollout 5, this is a great place to look. Information will get posted here as it becomes available. All right, so that concludes our presentation for today. Are there any questions that still need to be answered?
Most of the questions, again, on the chat have been answered, but I'm wondering if we could have, we have in Allegheny County, we have 11 sites. And so I'm wondering if it'd be possible to get a couple of hundred of the information pieces so we would have maybe 10 or 20 copies at each of our sites.
So what we typically do is send the handouts via email, so I can send them to you as PDF attachments. Do you guys have the ability to print them?
Are they one-sided, two-sided? What are the?
Most of the documents, I would have to say, are two-sided.
Okay, well, if the department doesn't have the ability to print, I understand. Please send Pat a copy of the PDF and we'll distribute that and do it that way. Okay, other questions? Okay, so if we're in a question, if we are in the non-logged in portion, no information is saved, is that correct? So every time you do something, you have to re-enter all your checking account information and whatever, versus when you're logged in, then all that information is saved. Is that a fair statement?
That is absolutely correct. For example, an estimated payment. Right now, myPATH requires you to make each of your estimated payments separately. So if you do that as a non-logged in function, every time for each one of them, you're going to have to enter the bank account information each time. It doesn't save taxpayer information as a non-logged in feature.
Okay, so TaxSlayer has the ability to set up ACH withdrawals on the federal side.
Okay.
It does not have the ability to do that on the state side. So the only way we would be able to do it logging in. Would that be correct?
I'm sorry, you broke out a little bit.
Okay. TaxSlayer does not have the ability to set up ACH for state payments, either payments due or not payments due, that can be done, but for estimated payments. So the only way to do that is via setting up an account then.
So no, you can absolutely submit an estimated payment via the non-logged in function. So you don't have to have an account to submit an estimated payment. You'll see it right on the home page when you go to mypath.pa.gov. The only thing is you're going to need to enter the bank account information for each payment that you set up that way. It's also available. I'm not trying to make this more confusing, but it's also available as a logged in feature. So you can do estimated payments logged in or non-logged in. That functionality is out there.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions out there? I'm not seeing anything. Thank you. This was very, very helpful. We do appreciate this very much. I think you'll be hearing a lot from us during the tax season. That's a good or a bad, depending on how you want to view it.
We look forward to it. If there's anything additional that you all need or any questions that you have, Pat has my contact information, so feel free to send it our way. And if we need to create additional handouts or guidance, we'll make sure that we get that out to you all.
Okay. Yeah, it would be nice if there's some way that we get a supply of the brochures just to have them at our sites. That would be nice rather than our printing them. But because yours would be in color and ours will be black and white. So
I'll talk to Dawn and see if there's anything that we can do to accommodate that request, and we'll get back to you guys. Okay?
Okay. If there's nothing else, we kept this to a little over an hour. I want to thank everyone for participating in this. I hope you found it useful. I know I did. And thank you, Alicia. It was an excellent presentation, and Don and Sarah for joining and answering the chat questions. And with that, we will shut down the meeting. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate this.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.